Allow me to introduce Dr. Stefan Harrer, Director of AI for Science, CSIRO, and the presentation will be how scientists can use AI agents to create more breakthroughs faster. And I will just give a sharing back to Dr. Stefan.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Can you hear me and can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see your.
Okay, but you can see the main slide that sees how AI can transform science, AI agents as assistive tools for researchers now.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Why don't I just start if it's not too strident, because my words will be more important anyways. So let's dive right into it. AI agents are lab assistants, digital lab assistants, and they are a mighty powerful tool to help scientists with pretty much all tasks that the scientific discovery work requires. I'll talk a little bit about where these AI agents came from when we look at the development of AI, and then most importantly, how they can be used and what needs to be known when using them and how to integrate them into workflows. The idea is that using AI agents will accelerate our path to scientific solutions that would have been decades away or practically out of reach entirely in the hands of our scientists. So go back at the beginning of last year, and you will remember that large language models popped up all over the place. I'll be very quick there. The era of bespoke chatbots had essentially begun. And this was a black box environment where you essentially ask a chatbot a question, you prompt it, and it comes back with some sort of answer. That's pretty much it. Now, something else happened just a couple of months ago, and that was that LLMs, generative AI, started to be able to reason and plan to solve problems in ways that no other AI had been able to before. That was a step change from, in quotation marks, simply conversing with a chatbot that could decompose problems into more palatable parts and deal with those one step at a time. And that has led to what are now so-called AI agents. These are AI models, large language models, that have learned how to use other tools to solve problems. These could be other AI or non-AI models. This could be data, or this could essentially be actual physical tools and robots. These AI agents had become savvy in enlisting the help of other tools to solve problems in response to user queries. And this is interesting because it essentially absolves scientists from knowing that these tools exist, where to find them, how to access them, how to run them, and often even, as we'll see, how to analyze, how to run complex analytical technology to interpret the outcomes they produce. This is where we've really arrived at an assistant level, like a true assistant level, lab assistant level AI that can be spoken to like a human and understands every language on Earth. Just for future reference, what will come next is so-called AI innovators. They actually discover new knowledge and aid innovation itself. And ultimately, we'll be able to do this at the level of organizations and not just individual scientists. Okay, so the key point to take away here is that AI agents are the glue that brings it all together. The data we work with, the tools we use to analyze the data, the models we use to simulate and run on this data, and the user interfaces that commoditize and make it very, very pragmatic to interact with these complex AI tools and other tools on a commoditized, serviceable basis. Now, I'm not going to go into every detail on this slide. There is a link on the bottom here that I invite everyone to have a look at, of a good report. But I'll point out a few really key aspects of what AI agents are. Firstly, they are large language models. They're not necessarily the kind of brute force scaled up super large models, which makes it very attractive to work and build those agents. You don't need those massive compute resources that only very few organizations have to actually build your assistant. And there are very cool tools out there. We at Cyro are building one for starters. There's others, Crew AI, for example, who I want to highlight here. Google has just brought out Vertex AI, and NVIDIA has an agent environment as well. It's the new craze, essentially, but it's really for the right reasons. So these are language models. They connect prompt systems, right? So this is essentially the user interface. They look like a chatbot on the outside, or can look like a multimodal chatbot on the outside, but it's really just the user interface. They contain memory mechanisms, right? Depending on which LLM runs in the back, they have a memory, so you can actually build and educate and train these assistants on the way you do science, on your problems, on your scientific domain. They contain knowledge bases, so you essentially can ingest specific data sets and knowledge of interest to your scientific problem, to your scientific domain into these models and make sure they're aware of it. They, and this is really important, are planning and reasoning models. So you give them a prompt and they will come up with a workflow that follows a problem-solving strategy to go and answer that prompt. That means they will pick and select tools that they know, data sets that they have access to, and compose it all in a strategic workflow that you can scrutinize, that you can change, that you can even design if you know what you want to do. So that workflow planning and reasoning, problem-solving reasoning capability is a key feature of agents. I mentioned tool integration a couple of times, right? So this is really one of the key takeaway messages here. They're not the actual problem-solving thing themselves. Agents actually use other tools to do this. Interesting, you can actually combine agents, like agents that are good at, for example, planning experiments with agents that are good to running robots to execute those experiments and other agents. So there's a swarm intelligence angle to all of this. You can use them to orchestrate and execute frameworks and workflows. So that's it's really a powerful toolbox more of helpers that you can enlist to do science. Important, the scientific method does not change, right? So that's one of the greatest accomplishments of humanity. It's given us the tools to run labs on Mars, to fight disease, to understand economies. There's all sorts of things the scientific method can do, and we're not going to be changing that. We're not going to be changing how the scientific method works. What these agents do is they allow to scale the scientific method from everything that it contains: idea generation, hypothesis formation, to designing experiments, to running experiments, and to actually analyzing the outputs of what these experiments produce and feed it back into our renewed hypothesis or confirmed hypothesis. So think of agents as the turbochargers of every step along the scientific discovery journey as defined in the scientific method. I like to show that this is not just a castle in the sky sort of from aspirational thinking by pointing to this chart. It shows essentially how quick new technologies are getting adopted by users. And it took decades for the fridge and the landline, and electricity and radio, not so long for the smartphone, and only 2 months for ChatGPT to get to 100 million users. This is absolutely true for AI agents in science as well. They don't penetrate every scientific domain at the same time. It doesn't happen with all scientists at the same time. Some areas are charging ahead, but ultimately, we expect them to bring together all disciplines across the scientific specialties, blending the skills of scientists and amplifying them. It's happening first in bio, I would say, or at least biotech, the health and the life sciences are amongst the first adopters. And I've thrown in a few links to this here. Startup Okin and others are using AI agents to massively speed up the drug discovery and drug development pipeline. We have a lab at Harvard, the Sidnick lab at Harvard, that builds whole ecosystems of AI agents for the genomics, biotech world. We have most recently a so-called much debated and not entirely critique-free AI scientist that came out of a DeepMind researcher startup, Sakana, that proposes to facilitate use AI agents for the entire journey from idea to writing papers. There's a lot of pitfalls in there. But what you can see is we have absolutely reached a state where AI agents have found their ways into researchers' hands, and they're experimenting with it, and they're getting partly real breakthrough and real game-changing outputs from them. Of course, researchers in the world is asking, can we trust those AI agents? What do we need to do to deploy them safely? And these are very, very important questions. We just heard in the talk previously that it is absolutely instrumental to have human oversight and human decision-making in the loop, and that these are essentially boosters for creativity, for efficiency, and for communicating science. One example that I want to show here, right, that's really impressive, is from a paper that came out, a study that came out of Stanford just a few weeks ago. Here's what these guys did. They essentially had researchers brainstorm with AI agents on new and novel research ideas. They would then have researchers alone brainstorm novel research ideas on that topic, and they would have AI by itself brainstorm research ideas on those specific topics. They then had an independent third-party evaluation group that would assess the research ideas that these three cohorts produced against the criteria that you see down there at the bottom of the figure: novelty, excitement, feasibility, effectiveness, and overall. And the exciting part is that researchers who had used AI agents as sparring partners to brainstorm new ideas were producing more novel ideas than either AI or researchers could have produced by themselves without using AI agents. It's a strong point in case for the symbiosis of human scientists working together with AI agents, achieving outcomes that neither one of them could have achieved by themselves. And this is something we see left and right. As I said, we are working here at CSIRO on building a trustworthy and efficient AI agentic workflow assistance system for scientists. So stay tuned. But the others are working on that too, and that is a field to watch because it marks the frontier of using AI in scientific work. There's a whole lot of commentary on this coming out as well. A few points in case here. Nature had a good commentary earlier this year that looked critically at over-trusting AI when using it for science. And others thought about, like, what does this really help us with, right? We don't want to just be productivity machines. We actually want to give scientists time to think and focus on the things that humans are notoriously good at. And so if you use AI agents, for example, to come up with ideas, how do we do this so that we actually really maximize human ingenuity, creativity, and curiosity, and not just substitute it? Very important commentary, is interesting to work, and some are producing very good critical questions that we need to address as we bring AI agents to scientists as a commodity. Our team here at CSIRO has produced a few papers on how to architect AI agent models, how to design these AI agents depending on the task you want them to do, and also how to deploy them responsibly and trustworthily. So I invite you to have a look at some of those papers or approach me afterwards as well. If you want to find out more about these papers. As I said, we are also working on a tool that we'll externalize in the future as well and make available to scientists. My boss, John Whittle, and I have written a commentary ourselves, which I reference here at the very end of the presentation, where we lay out our view onto the use of AI in science. We believe that if AI is deployed and used responsibly and in a trustworthy way, in a strategic way, with the scientists, human scientists at the center, taken along the way, all the way from introducing these AI models into their workflows to executing those workflows and commoditizing AI. We believe if we can do this, and if we do this as a consumer-centric design exercise with the scientists in the center, then AI will actually help scientists achieve levels of productivity, creativity, and impact that they couldn't or wouldn't if they didn't use AI. With that, I'll leave you. Here's my contact information. Please do get in touch. Find me on LinkedIn. Send me a note or ask questions after this talk, which I would be very happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? I will also, if Stephen, you are happy, get your presentation and share.
Of course. Yeah. I will do that. I will send you that.
Thank you. And can I invite our audience for questions? I have one.
Yep.
It's very interesting, but I just want to check how your agent platform integrates with existing scientific tools or workflows, which we already have.
Yes. So the short version is that it seeks to integrate all of those, of course, and because this is not something that takes existing tools out of the loop. This is a system that combines, links, and scales all the existing tools, scientific methods, engineering technologies, scientific data. So we want to be the glue that brings it all together. The scope and complexity of what's out there exceeds what many scientists have access to or would even know about. And so we seek to gradually connect and link every tool that's out there and wants to be connected to our tool to make it maximum interoperable. Of course, this needs to be done. This is where data privacy, IP, ownership, of course, play a crucial role, right? You can't just mop everything up, connect it in there, and expect people to be happy with that. With some tools, crowdsourced and open source tools, that's definitely the case. But other tools might come, and data sets might come with access restrictions, usage restrictions. So we will have, and we do have, appropriate integration parameters that allow us to integrate tools under the conditions that they're shared with and used as well.
There's a bright future coming along and then a lot of work.
Yes, that's right. And if I can just advertise last thing, so tomorrow morning, look for this on the internet. You can register. Our partners, Google and us from CSIRO, are running a 2-hour expert session on all of what I just said, with demos, with hands-on poll taking, question and answering time, showcasing some of that technology and how it looks like. Find that, just go really to, it's publicly advertised. You can register. It's 10 to 12 a.m. tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon tomorrow morning, Melbourne time. It would be great to, it doesn't cost anything. Just sign up and you learn 2 hours more of stuff that looks much more hands-on than what I've shown you here.
Excellent, Stefan. Thank you. You could also share it on our Padlet, only if you have time. If not,
I will put it there. Is that the chat when you say to everyone, or where would that be?
Like a Padlet where people can introduce themselves and organize some networking in the future. But
I'll find that.
I can also post it for you, because I will have access to all the chats.
You know what I'll do? I'll send you the presentation deck, and I'll send you the link to that expert session, and then you can
Fantastic.
widely
And I will post
disseminate
it for you. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.